because man's task is to make the earth after the model of heaven. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Man's project is to heavenize the earth. Man is made to transform the world from glory to glory, to take hold of it and break it down and remake it after the image of heaven.
Welcome back to the Reformed Reset with Take Hold Studios. My name is Grant. Joined with me, as always, is my beautiful wife, Ericha, the weaker vessel.
Hello, everyone.
Also joined with us tonight is our super good friends, the Bruinsmas, Jay and Amy. Welcome to the Reformed Reset.
This might be illegal what we're doing right now. Is it illegal?
Did you have to ask the
We're
government?
not technically in the same house, so I think that it's probably fine.
Okay. Good.
As long as we're not within 6 feet, it's okay.
Yeah, we're okay.
Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, the cords between our devices are definitely longer than 6 feet.
That's true.
But in the other case, you would just have to, make a record of it or something, right?
That's right.
Isn't that what you're doing in Canada these days?
Right.
It is, unfortunately.
So if you guys don't know who are watching in Ontario, Canada right now, although they could speak better to this because they're living this nightmare, but they are having to record anyone that comes to your home, or
Like a ledger, right?
Or is that only up there in Toronto, that county?
One area has started that. They have to keep it, what do they call it? You get contact tracing.
Oh,
you
yeah,
have to
that's
keep track of who is in your home, phone numbers, names, and then you have to be able to submit that to the government at any time that they ask for it.
Wild.
When we were up there with you guys, I may or may not have put like Greg as the name and totally the wrong phone number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that will become more and more commonplace because who wants to? Although, unfortunately, I think that there's more Ontarians than not that are like super keen to this
To just
plan.
comply.
Yeah. Canadians want this.
Yeah.
Canadians want government permission to do anything.
Yeah. They like to tell on their neighbor. So hopefully that will shift. But as of right now, people are pretty motivated to talk about their neighbor.
Well, at least historically, that sort of tyranny doesn't last very long.
We're
It
hoping.
happens and has happened. What?
I mean, it's been a couple of years already, right? Like, isn't this?
Well, I
isn't
mean,
this
to
year
this
two?
degree. To this degree.
Yeah, I think this is year 2. I can't even keep track anymore. But yeah,
We're in the second year. Yep.
yeah, we're in the 19th month or something.
So would
But
you
hey,
say?
2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Yeah, right. Would you say that Canadians have poor eschatology? Maybe that's why some of this is happening.
Segue.
Probably
Segue.
very fair to say.
Hold on. We can't get into that yet. We haven't done the whole.
Okay, hurry up.
Oh,
Go
that's
to
right.
takeholdstudios.com, subscribe to the channel, hit the like
Okay,
button,
okay,
share,
fair enough.
comment, leave a review on iTunes,
I hit my
podcasts,
microphone.
whatever you listen to.
There's awesome stuff on their store.
That's true.
Awesome stuff.
Go to
Teespring.
Teespring. Yeah, go ahead, Amy. What do the people need to do?
They need to go to Teespring and get your gear. They have some great stuff. They've got the
Search the Take Hold Studios.
Take Hold Studios. Get the Feed the Patriarchy. And
Feed
Yes.
Fiji.
Feed
Sorry,
the
my bad.
patriarchy.
Feed
Our-
the-
our
Old
slogan-
English for the modern woman.
Yes.
It's so
Yeah.
good.
Great tagline.
Makes
Yeah, no,
me
there's
laugh
some
every
good stuff
time.
on there, guys.
Gosh, it's
Oh,
so
goodness.
good. The other thing that we have done a couple for now is the apron.
Yeah, we do
So-
sell aprons. We have to figure out how to put that on our
Streamline this.
website.
Yeah, we got to figure out how to streamline this because
Teespring doesn't sell them.
turns out aprons
Oh,
are not
bummer.
in most demand.
The feminists have
Okay.
ruined
Yeah, I guess
Um,
that's
So to get a decent one designed how you want it, you have to, go to a random site. So anyway, Ericha got one and got it to Jennifer Lokeen.
I noticed she was
Faithful
sporting that.
listener.
Very nice.
Yes.
Weaker Vessels Kitchen.
And that was
apron.
long overdue because she's been a supporter of the show for a long time.
Yes.
But anyway, we had a couple requests. So as it stands right now, I think we're going to share the picture. If we haven't already, we'll share the picture of it so people can see what it looks like. But if you DM either me or DM Ericha and send us your, we'll give you our email and you can PayPal us money and then we'll just ship the apron to you. We'll just do the
That's kinda
order
how we're
and get
doing
it
it.
to you.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
It's a
that
great
way-
apron.
Yeah.
Yeah, cut out as much middleman.
The holidays are coming up.
steps.
So if you're
That's
looking
right.
for gifts, it's
That's right.
never too early to get ahead on Christmas.
That's right.
Exactly. So if you want a Weaker Vessels Kitchen apron,
You can buy one for like all of your feminist family.
Everyone.
Yeah. And it looks
It's
great.
the gift that keeps on giving.
That's right.
All year long.
Yep. Topic of conversation for the whole family.
That's right.
That's good stuff.
So, any other
Just look out.
paperwork?
Yeah, look out also on the audio feed for the Great Exchange.
Yes.
There should be another episode out. I know we record these beforehand, so anyway, but Matt Halleck and them are doing great work with their podcast. So just make sure you download and take part of that content as well. It's really good, really well done, and we're happy to have them on our
They have some
feed and be
cool
partnering with
interviews.
them. Yeah, solid interviews. So, so make sure you check that out. That's pretty much it. All right. So if you see from the title or from the little hint just given, we're going to be talking about eschatology, and we're going to talk about the home.
How eschatology impacts your home, how it impacts your roles in the home.
So I'll start off with saying this. Like, I remember, and this may be you, and there may be tons of people still in this boat, that they look at the topic of eschatology and they think there's too many books to even read to feel like I have a grasp on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's too complicated. Revelation is one of the book is crazy. Or, how does this all fit together with Old Testament stuff, New Testament, what Jesus said?
All the allegory is kind of scary.
Yeah. And so it can be overwhelming. And what tends to happen in Christianity is then people come up with stuff like, oh, I'm a pan millennialist. I think it's all just going to pan out in the end.
Well, I think there's two ditches. One is people become obsessed with it and they get into like weirdness.
Well, hold on though, because is it a ditch if you get obsessed with it and you have the right?
Yeah, because there are
view?
people with charts in their basements. Like,
No, with the right
that
view.
exists.
With the right view though.
Well, I would say those people probably aren't right. Yeah, like I get that. But I'm saying there are people who get weirdly obsessed with it, and that's the only thing they care about. They don't care about any other parts of the scripture.
If they make it like if they elevate it to like a basis for fellowship.
And then the other ditch would be people who just don't want to learn about it at all.
Right.
Because they're apprehensive.
So, and one of the tendencies is to think that it doesn't really matter. So you can just kind of have your opinion and it doesn't really matter. And he can have his opinion. It doesn't really matter.
Doesn't affect me.
Yeah. It doesn't really affect me. It's this secondary, tertiary doctrine. So, whatever. What we want to do with the help of Amy and Jay, given
the professionals,
but also given their unique situation they are trying to build a Christian home where they're at, and they have these deep convictions to have a Christian covenantal home. They're also post-millennial in their eschatology, same as us, but they're in a super difficult situation in society right now. Yeah. And so if you know anything about post-millennial eschatology, it has a positive future outlook. It sees the gospel growing. It sees the kingdom growing, not diminishing. It sees Christ winning. It's an eschatology of winning, not losing. And so when you're in Canada and you have to literally take a manifest of everyone who's entered your home every day, like, how can you think we're winning? This doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't look like winning. Right.
So that's what we hopefully want to get into and talk about how eschatology will affect your home, will affect your marriage, your parenting, and everything.
Because, like, to be honest, 5 years ago, I would not have called myself post-millennial. And so for those people who are perhaps listening, who don't know a ton about eschatology, and maybe you've like pricked their interest a little bit. I know you kind of like gave a little brief overview of post-millennialism, but like what makes post-millennialism different from like any other position outside of just we believe we win in the end? Like, what does that mean?
Right. Because some people might say like, oh, that's nice. Of course, everybody wants to just believe the position that,
well, and I think we would have said that we believe Christ wins in the end. Yeah, of course, we're going to get raptured out of here.
Yeah.
And
so the big difference between post-millennialists and dispensationalists would be just that a post-millennialist will see that all of Scripture tells the same story,
Okay.
It's all about Christ or God rather promising that in Christ he's going to make all things new, and that was Genesis 3:15, and then he does it.
And
right?
you can weave
And
that
you can,
all throughout.
Exactly. And then you can see that thread woven through every single covenant and all the way through a family to a nation, and then specifically in a kingly line.
Mhm.
And then comes Christ, who fulfills everything before him, and then establishes the multinational church, which then, like a mustard seed that's planted into the ground and then becomes the biggest tree of the garden, or like leaven that works its way through the whole lump, the church, the kingdom will spread and affect the whole thing. And so the postmillennialists will say what we believe is that Christ didn't send us on a fool's errand when it comes to the Great Commission to go disciple the nations. That was what he was talking about the leavening the whole lump. You guys are going to be sent out with the power of the Spirit at Pentecost, and it's just going to keep spreading and keep going until it spreads to the whole thing.
So slowly the nations will be won over and put
right
under the feet of Christ.
Yes. And then that's what we find in 1 Corinthians 15, where Jesus is fulfilling all of those promises made in the Psalms and stuff, where God was saying to the anointed one, the Messiah, I will give you the nations. I will make them as a footstool for you, and you will defeat all your enemies and all this kind of thing. And that's
right.
So that's the trajectory. So there's no split between Old Testament, New Testament, like the dispensationals would say. Because you're right. They would say, oh yeah, we win in the end. I've read Revelation. Christ comes back and he kills everybody.
Right.
They see he wins. But postmillennialists will see it as a much more gradual thing. And it's like little battles throughout all of time.
Well, we don't think he just redeemed individuals or souls. We think he redeemed everything.
Right.
Like all of creation was put under a curse, and by Christ's sacrifice, he has reversed the curse on not just people or souls, but everything, all of creation.
Right.
So everything that is created will be won over and become Christianized. Everything in the end.
Right.
That's our positive eschatology.
And so that's much different than the just go out and win souls, because we all need to escape the wrath that's about to come in the 7-year tribulation. So we need to be able to, get ourselves right, so that way we can get scooped up in the rapture and escape all this. And then we're going to come back with God and slay some people, and then 1,000-year reign on earth physically, and then it's going to flip over and all that kind of stuff. That's like their paradigm. But they see that there's two different peoples of God. There's a lot of we don't need to.
It can get deep. But the biggest thing that for someone who is dispensational, they would be like, well, the world is getting crazy, so prepare yourself for the rapture. Like hunker down, batten the hatches.
You see it, like they'll look at the news and then go, it certainly is the end times.
Yeah.
Times are bad.
Oh, over and over again.
So many times.
Yeah.
And the difference between amillennialists with postmillennialists is really just that the kingdom is also here on earth. From the discussions I've had with amillennialists and stuff, that's kind of what it boils down to, is the kingdom, in the way they formulate it, is that Christ is reigning in heaven. He reigns in his church, but then he doesn't really reign over the rest of the world. So it's
like Satan is still kind of king of the earth, sort of.
Yeah, it's like they sort of have this neutral spot so I guess it would be under Satan, but I think some of them would still say Satan's bound now. Like I think they'd still hold that, but just different. It's not a full orb. It's not all of heaven and on earth, like in the Great Commission.
Read Psalm 110. And then if you read that, I don't know how you couldn't be post-mill.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well,
so for you guys, you're in Canada, things are getting cray, and you're post-mill, and you're having to balance like this theological belief with what you see in front of you. How is that?
How do you work that out?
Well, we talked about it the other day during devotions, family devotions. And what I told the kids is we're going to go back to the garden state, right? Like where God created the garden, it was perfection. Everything. It wasn't just this group of people or this. It was everything. The entire world.
Mm.
And that's where we're working towards.
Getting back to it.
Yeah.
Is it disheartening to see, like, so in Rachel Jankovic's book, I think it's Loving the Little Years, where she says that faithfulness never looks
like what it's accomplishing.
Yes. Never, or feels like what it's accomplishing.
Yeah.
So things might feel really hairy, but if you are faithful, you can accomplish a lot, like through the hairy times. Does that make sense?
So So for you guys in your home, obviously,
and I'm struggling with this mic right here.
Yeah, no, you're like,
it's very close.
You're battling this thing right now.
Spiritual.
You guys are battling this, this. I mean, if it must feel like you're constantly just losing. You guys just had an election and lost. Like, I mean,
wasn't good.
Big time. But you're post-millennial. So how can you feel like, oh, we're still gonna win? Like, how do you reconcile that with your eschatology? How do you reconcile that with what you're seeing right now? Or go ahead, Jay.
No, I was just going to say, it just changes how you raise your kids, right? You can raise your kids to be victims. You can raise your kids to, well, we're going to lose, so throw in the towel, whatever. Or you can raise your kids to be warriors. You can raise your kids to be fighters. You can raise your kids that this is the mission that we've been given, and we're going to go do that. Right? Christ wins at the end. We know that. And so we're going to do what he tells us, right?
Yeah, it's a really empowering message. Like, for me, as a little bit more of an emotional person, we'll just say that. And it's very easy for me to give in to the lies of feeling. And then as a mom of kids under the age of 10, I just see little people and what is the world going to be. But knowing the truth that God's already won is just very encouraging on the day-to-day when you hear the news again and you're just like, how is this? But then, and I think that it's also, just on a mom note, why it's so important to constantly be feeding yourself truth all day long, because you can kind of give in to all of this fear messages that are coming at you. But yeah, it's super encouraging. Yeah, because there's no, like, I can't remember the last time I heard a positive segment on the news. Like, it's all like, guess how many COVID, well, I don't know what it's like where you are, but it's not awesome. But it's super encouraging. It's very empowering to be like, you know what, I'm equipping you. And it just solidifies my job here at home, equipping the kids during the school day or whatever it is. Like, no, we have a job to do. We have a mission to do, and we can be joyful in how we go about this because we are serving a God that already won. Doesn't feel like that every day or many days, but
not look like it.
And it doesn't always look like it either. What was that line that you used? That's so great, because that's, you don't always see it, but we have to still stay the course.
Mm-hmm.
Well, faithfulness doesn't always feel like what it's accomplishing.
Yeah, that's good.
It is super good. And what there's I think I've heard a few things recently, podcasts or whatever, talking about the moment we're in, because America is awful in some other ways, if not the same as Canada, or right behind Canada anyway.
Yeah.
But it's kind of awesome to look at the liberal seculars fall apart, because nothing that they're doing is going to work. Like, I think it's the same up there, right? We're hiring signs everywhere.
Everywhere.
And it's everywhere here too. We constantly talk about this because we were at Walmart today, and just like the deli meats, there's like two options when normally it's full. And then in the other meat section, there's just hardly stuff, and prices have they've gone up by a quarter, 30% or more or something.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, this is their policies. This is their worldview. This is their eschatology working itself out.
Yeah.
And there's nothing there, and it's really expensive.
It's fruitless.
And it's fruitless, right? Their evil deeds are showing what they accomplish.
Well, and you can see it even in political circles. They're turning on each other. And that's
true too.
It's rather enjoyable to watch, because where there used to be allies, now they bite each other's head off and throw each other under the bus.
Always eats itself.
Yeah.
And Nicki Minaj is the latest example, right?
Yes, exactly.
All she did, what I've heard is that all she did was post.
You're not up on all the details of the Nicki Minaj.
Of
Actually,
Nicki
Amy,
Minaj? Like,
I
what?
think you knew more of it
I
than we
didn't
did.
care that much. Yeah, Amy, Amy, what happened with Nicki Minaj?
From what I've heard, my sources, she heard about her cousin in Trinidad.
Yeah.
And some of the unfortunate side effects.
Elephantitis.
Elephantitis. It was an unfortunate situation for her cousin in Trinidad due to the vaccine, not the virus.
Mhm.
And all of the powers that be in the States were quite upset because she clearly has a huge platform. Like, I don't even know what her follower viewership is.
She got invited to the White House.
But she got invited to the White House.
Right, which is
Which
terrifying.
I would
honestly.
feel a little bit afraid, like, oh, you don't like what I said and now I have to go. But anyways, they encouraged her to come so that she could see for herself.
No, to talk to her doctor, to the White House doctors.
Oh, to talk to the White House doctors, which is just wild. But
So they can reassure her everything's good. Don't look here.
or they'll
Everything's
have
fine.
like that little light like they did in Men in Black, and they'll just like flash out whatever.
That's right.
So I don't know when that's scheduled to be. I'm sure we'll hear about it in the Twitterverse or whatever
Right.
you call it. I'm not on Twitter, clearly. I'm also
But-
apparently 1,000 years old, but yeah, her little offhanded comment stirred up like just this huge, like, oh, like, don't listen to everything you hear on the internet or whatever. She's like, I just heard a thing that heard a thing. Like, maybe we
Right.
should be challenging.
Like from my
Is that
what
YouTube
we're
the
here.
number.
white supremacist now?
Maybe. I don't know. We'll find out next week. Next week.
But like they, you know, she's our culture's, I don't know, whatever you want to label her as, but she's accepted, right? She's a highly
She's a
successful
priestess.
musical
She
artist.
used
Yeah,
to be
she's
woke.
a high priestess, exactly.
Right.
Prophetess, maybe even.
Yeah.
But then as soon as she went against their God,
Yeah.
done.
Boom.
You're out of here. You're
Mhm.
excommunicated, right? You have sinned. You have sinned the unpardonable sin at the moment, and there's no
Well, you
forgiveness.
questioned your God.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So anyway, I think some of that is a blessing from God because who did I hear? I think it was Cross Politic recently. I think it was Toby that said that right now it seems like God's forcing Christians to lead.
Yeah.
And it's because everything else is falling apart and Christians are the only ones that are like, well, we have to still like keep working and do stuff. Like we can't just follow this disaster. We have to
Right.
go, you know, and they just have, but it's because they have a different eschatology. And I
That
think,
sounds federal vision.
oh yeah, sue me.
Don't say that. Someone might.
That's true. I'm not worth anything. Don't sue me.
It's true. It's not. It's just a pastor.
Part-time even.
Yes.
But you know what? He said that, and Eric and I were talking, and I thought back to the like the Plymouth colony and the pilgrims that first came to America. And when you came here, you knew, first of all, you might not even survive the boat ride here.
Hmm.
It
No.
took, 3 months or whatever just to come across. And there was a significant amount of them on the Mayflower that passed away.
Yeah.
And then many were extremely sick. And they knew that when they arrived, they were going to have to build their own houses, plant their own, crops,
Food. Hmm.
and hunt. And like they knew they were going to have to do everything from scratch, brand new. They came from Leiden, Netherlands, and England, London, or whatever, where you didn't necessarily have to do that. You could work in a city,
Hmm.
and there were, whatever, you could shop in the middle of the city and get all your stuff. You didn't have to have your own farm. It wasn't a completely agrarian society, but it was those who were post-millennial. They were kingdom focused in their outlook and came and rebuilt
Mhm.
like a new world, and it was called the New World, right? And in the Mayflower Compact, it literally says like, we're doing this because we want to spread the glory of God over the earth and establish a godly society. And
Mhm.
it's all about spreading the gospel. And even in the midst of the insanity right now, who's starting businesses? Like there's redballoon.org and there's like new stuff happening because they want to honor freedom. And they're doing the hard work that it takes. We already have Monster Jobs website and we have, you know, whatever. Why start a new one? You know what I mean? But it's the Christians who have the mindset of starting the new thing that's going to build the new world. And that comes from postmillennialism,
Right.
like a Christian mindset.
We're going to take the technology and we're going to Christianize it.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you know, anyway, obviously that'll affect homes because then that creates a new world for all of our children to live in.
Let's start there and let's talk about specifically men, like fathers, husbands, that sort of thing.
Okay.
We're talking about building something, and that's something that men and women are supposed to do. We're supposed to build.
Yeah.
How we do that is unique to certain
Each
genders.
role,
Yes. But for men,
Yeah, Jay.
how does being post-millennial affect your role as a husband or father?
You go first, Jay.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it changes how you raise your kids. Like my sons, I want to be fighters. I want them to, you have a task, go get it done. We have work to do, go do it. Right. It's not well, what's the point? Because we're going to lose anyway, so we'll throw in the towel now. Well, no, there's work to do. Right. Jesus said, go do this work. And so we go and do it. Right. Dragon Slayer.
Before we hit record, we were doing our extremely extensive show prep together as a group.
It's very extensive.
And
we made Amy cry once. It was a whole thing.
Tears of joy.
And I brought up the Ephesians 6 and how Paul tells the children to obey your mother and father. Parents, you know, fathers, don't provoke your children to wrath, raise them in the fear and admonition of the Lord and all that. But he says this is the first commandment with a promise. And so we remember from the Old Testament that God said, children, obey your parents, honor your father and mother, for it will go well with you in the land, or that you will, you know, remain in the land for a long time. Like there's a promise of longevity and a future with that obedience.
There's a benefit to obedience.
And it just popped in my head that like this is very similar to the post-millennial understanding of the gospel promises of God, in that in Christ, following him, obeying him is what brings about the discipleship of the nations. We are following a promise that we believe it today, but we may not see it for generations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? Like that first generation of pilgrims in Plymouth Colony,
most of them died.
They didn't see what America is now, or they didn't see the height of.
That's probably a good thing, actually.
Well, that's probably a good thing. They probably freak out. They'd be like, "Oh, y'all need to be, you know, you gotta need to be hung. There's thousands of you need to be hung right now." But like you chip away believing and putting your trust in the promises of God, which is another thing that postmillennialists see with the whole Bible, is that it's always been a belief in the promises of God. Mm-hmm. There's no different way of salvation, you know, with Adam.
Abraham believed and it was counted to him as righteousness.
Exactly. And that's the way it is for us. We believe and it's counted us as righteousness. There's no different ways to get to God throughout the Bible. Mm-hmm. And so for our homes, we can teach our kids, like you know, obeying us, obeying your God, working hard, right? You have a task at hand. Doesn't matter what the world's doing. You live before the face of God. And so you just obey that and follow that, because why? You've been promised something. You've been promised that God will bless it as you dwell in the land.
So I have a question. Say there are either new fathers out there or men who didn't have Christian dads, who didn't have anyone modeling what being a godly father or husband looks like. They hear what you guys are saying. They say, yeah, I believe that, but I don't know how to like do it. I don't know how to get my knowledge working in my family. What would you tell those kind of young men?
Great question.
That is a good question. And I think that it's going to be a question on more men's minds as the world is changing. I think more men are wanting to step up Like we've even encountered that in some of our friendships, seeing certain dads that were maybe more apathetic at one time or whatever. And we're just seeing them being like, no, like I'm responsible for this home and I'm going to rise to that challenge. So I think
want to take ownership.
And it's been super cool for us because we've been able to witness that with certain people. So I think new dads, old dads, I think we're going to see it a lot. But as a wife, I've seen lead by example. I think that's the only way.
Yeah.
As the wife saying that, I'll let you say the rest. But that's where I see it in our home. Just be the example to your kids. What would you add? Because you are the man.
What has been the most helpful for you? Like, has there been like a word of advice or a book or like something that has really benefited you that you're like, listen, man, this is where you start?
No, I think just get started. Just look into it. Look, like, eschatology is a very daunting thing. It's huge.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Just get started. Look at the different stances. Look at what the Bible says with those stances, and figure out where you are.
And I think don't be afraid, because we're new to the game on a lot of things in recent years. And like God has been gracious and faithful to like provide all the way along, but be willing to learn alongside your kids. Like, this is new for us. Like, we said this to our kids, like, we do family worship in the afternoon because of Jay's schedule. And we say this to the kids all the time. Like, some of the topics that we're tackling, we're like, guys, we are new to this as your parents. It's okay. Ask questions. We're figuring it out as we go, but be eager and keen to ask and learn and pursue. Like, but yeah, just be willing to fail sometimes. But yeah, I would say just start. I think that's been a real blessing for our family.
Just get into it. Look into it. Read it.
Don't be lazy and put it off just because you don't know all the things.
And don't let pride get in the way of like, oh, I didn't do it perfectly, because we're not going to.
You never will.
Exactly.
You actually never will.
Good. So what's the best book for like a man to pick up on post-millennial? Like not something super weighty that's going to be intimidating. Like for a newbie, what book would you hand someone?
Yeah, because the book I started with, I wouldn't recommend. It was by Marcellus Kick. Kick? Yeah, Marcellus Kick. An Eschatology to Victory. Great book. Don't start with that one.
It took him a while to weed through it all. Yeah.
I have it up there somewhere.
I know, like, go ahead. You can tell me what your suggestion is.
So I'm trying to remember what we listened to that was really helpful, because the first book I think I read on it was,
there was an old podcast series. They don't do a podcast anymore. I think it was The Two Thieves.
Yeah,
they have a series.
Well, they did.
Aren't they back up and running?
I don't know.
Under a different name, I think.
Oh, really?
Oh, I don't know. We're gonna have to all Google it after, obviously.
Yeah. Now you just intrigued everyone.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I think that's kind of what started us. But what book?
They did an episode exegeting Matthew 24, and as they walked through Matthew 24, Erica and I both were convinced of postmillennialism, but also more so the partial preterism, because sort of hand in hand with postmillennialism is an understanding that most of the New Testament prophecy about end time stuff happened in AD 70 when the temple was destroyed and Jerusalem was ransacked by the Romans. So, I mean, they sort of go hand in hand, but I haven't read it. I've always heard great things about Doug Wilson's book, Heaven Misplaced. And that's a book on postmillennialism.
Is it good?
That was a good one.
That, Jay?
Yeah, it was good. I got it for Christmas.
That one,
last year. I would recommend it. It's a good book.
And it's not overly huge either. Like, you can.
It's a smaller book.
You can tackle it through.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because I read Greg Bonson's book called Victory of Jesus or Victory in Jesus or something, and that was good. And he actually went through some old history of postmillennialism, talking about the Puritans and their understanding and stuff like that. I don't remember if it was a real difficult book. It's not big either. So that's another one you can get. It's Greg Bonson's book, Victory in Jesus, I think.
Cool.
Bonson's good.
But I would say too, teaching your kids is huge. I just want to emphasize that, like, teach your kids eschatology. Teach them that this, you know, this end time stuff, like in the end, like God is going to continue to make things more Christian throughout the world. Sometimes it's not right where we live. It's going to be somewhere else. But we are going to keep being faithful to God here because of these promises. Let me show those to you, and do a Bible study about the, you know, eschatological promises of God. Show them the ending of the Bible. Look how it's going to end. This is going to be amazing.
Yep.
And that's what we're working towards each and every day that we sweep the floor, or that we, whatever. You know what I mean?
Amy had her little wife 2 cents. Can I have mine?
Of course.
It goes along with yours.
She's getting 3 cents.
I get 3. Canada doesn't have pennies. What do you guys? If you need 3 cents, what do you
round
do?
up? You can have a nickel.
You can have a nickel. Yeah.
All right.
It's always 5 cents for your thoughts there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. They're worth it.
Nickel for your thoughts.
Okay, so one thing I would say is for men, if you have an 18-month-old, teach eschatology to your 18-month-old. Don't wait till they're 13. Don't wait till they're 16.
Yeah. Yep.
Teach principles to your children. Even if you think they are too small, they're not going to understand this. Who cares? They're hearing you talk about it, and it will be a memory in their mind for as long as they can look back. Dad was always like saying these things to me.
Yeah.
Teach them. Don't wait.
It is surprising what kids retain. It's amazing.
Yeah, we find that all the time.
Yeah.
And that's true of everything in scripture. Don't water it down. Don't baby your kids. Like, just give it to them, explain it to them. They are way smarter than you actually understand.
True.
100%.
Well, and you know, you would rather them grow up never
knowing a difference.
But we work every day unto the glory of God, because he's promised us that, you know, the whole world is going to be, you know, more and more his, you know, more and more Christian. That's
well, and what are you hurting?
For.
If your
Yeah,
if your 3-year-old walks away not understanding a word you said, what great harm have you done? Nothing.
Nope.
Right.
Not at all.
You just do it again the next day, and eventually they'll get it.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a consistent message. That's
Repetition.
so true. Yeah,
Kids
that's
need
so true.
repetition. Yeah.
So
for the ladies.
Okay.
So for we just got to keep this ball rolling, or we'll be here for
I know
8
I had
hours.
something.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but it had to do with ladies.
Okay, you go ahead.
So I just wanted to point out the difference here, because a post-millennial home is going to be full of hope, regardless of what's happening outside. And I know we've all seen the meme of Maria from The Sound of Music, just like teaching the kids music on the hilltop, and then like in the background,
the world's
on fire and blowing up and volcanic and stuff. And it's always like homeschool moms be like, or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, but it's not a ruse. Like we know, if you just look at history in chunks of like 500 years, and our old pastor used to always say this, or he'd always use this example to show postmillennialism working. Like you see that stuff does get better. And he uses the illustration where, like, you know, 1,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago, having a governmental system where money is being given to the poor or the needy or the destitute, or like ensuring that they're taken care of, was unthinkable. Like cultures, you know, 1,500 years ago were trying to just dominate the next nation next to them. They didn't care. Like if you couldn't contribute, just get out of the way. That was unthinkable. Whereas now we argue on the left and the right how to take care of the poor and the destitute.
It's not if, it's how.
Yeah, it's not whether we should do it, it's how we should do it. Well, that's an improvement. That's a Christian thing. That's because of the Christian West, who has fully ingrained into all of us that, of course, you care for the needy person. Like you need to give to them. You need to do something for them. That comes from Christianity. That doesn't come from any other worldview at all.
Right.
You know? So some people who, you know, may look at Canada or Australia right now, certain other places that are absolutely horrible. How can you be post-millennial? Well, it's because I don't look at just today, and I don't look at just one area. Right? We still see all over Africa and even still in China and stuff, where there's millions upon millions upon millions of people coming to the Lord.
Right.
And so that's how your home can be still full of hope, even if our country or province can seem absolutely out of control. But if you're dispensational, you flip the coin and you know that it's just going to all be flushed down the toilet anyway. Like it's all done. Like it doesn't even matter. And so that inevitably will have an effect on what you do each day. You are going to lament, right? The way you parent, hey buddy, I know it's bad. It's just the way it's going to go.
Yeah.
But you better hang on tight and just
don't worry. Jesus is coming back.
That's right.
Yeah, like that's the only hope is escape.
Yeah.
Your hope has nothing to do with building or longevity. The hope is, I hope it happens right now. Like I hope we leave right now.
Yeah.
So anyway.
All right.
Yeah, I remember reading the Left Behind series.
Oh,
Yeah, I grew up. Wow, this is even new. This whole thought process is very new to me. Like very new. And I'm very
new.
Yeah, I think Jay came to it earlier than me, as is often the case. But like it takes me longer to own it and get it. But thankfully, in recent weeks and months, just in some of my Bible reading and stuff, like, and this is how God is awesome as you read your Bible more. But it was just like, boom, like hit me right in the I'm like, oh, well, because this is a much better way of looking at the world. Like, why have I not? Because it was like a concept that I loosely, like in a cloud, was like, yeah, that sounds great and hopeful and whatever. But I have found more recently when I'm having my one-to-ones or like speaking to my children, I'm like, no, like guys, be hopeful. Like we don't, some things, this has been an incredibly challenging year for our family, but for our good and for God's glory. And like we can be, this is an example of a time of being faithful, and maybe we get to see the fruit of that and maybe we don't, like you were saying. And that can feel like, well, I want to see. Why don't I get to see what the thing is? But maybe our kids do, maybe our grandkids do. But the fact is that there's going to be a thing to be seen, and it's all for God's glory, regardless of if it's the small thing or the big thing. So yeah.
So once you see POSTMILL in the Bible,
you can't unsee it.
Right.
Like
it's true.
All scripture just points to Jesus's victory. That's it. Christ wins.
Yeah. Period.
Yeah.
I think we're good. I think that, and that's how you need to end this.
Yeah. Christ wins.
Christ wins.
Okay.
Are you good? Did you have anything else?
Well, you didn't want to talk about like being a wife and mother or kids or anything?
Oh, yeah. What?
You want to do two episodes maybe?
I mean, we could split this, I guess.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do that.
All right, so that's it. We're gonna have part 2, but so for right now, this has been the Reformed Reset.
But on the basis of grace and on the finished work of Jesus Christ, the project is back and forth, and the destiny of a new transformed world is assured.
I just put the sourdough in the oven too, so I've got like 40 minutes.